Everybody be like, "Are you single?" Like, no, we doing some serious today, so I'm gonna be like that type of thing. Yeah, we talk about mental health. You are currently watching Evolve, and I'm your host, Neek, and I have my boy today, Johnny, aka the Life Coach. We're gonna talk about mental health. You know, just sit back and watch. So, are you currently dealing with any mental health issues?
I have noticed that, or I guess I have identified, I do have anxiety. I think I have situational or circumstantial depression. Like, I'm not consistently depressed. I think it's just certain moments, or like sometimes when the anxiety creeps in, I start to get depressed along with the anxiety. And then a recent discovery, because I am in therapy right now, and talking to my therapist, which I kind of knew like what was going on. Like, I can identify, I just didn't know what the exact name for it was. And he said I'm currently dealing with death anxiety, which is just where I over centralize the idea of dying, I guess, where it's like I'm always constantly thinking about like what's gonna happen if and when I die, to where it's like I'm overthinking about like certain situations, like when I'm in the car, maybe like, oh, the car's gonna crash and I'm gonna die. So just something, things along that line. So I'm kind of working through that right now. I think that's probably like the biggest thing that I'm working through right now.
So I currently have, like you said, pretty much situational anxiety. I over the last couple years, I became more open with my mental health. And I actually went to the doctor. I've tried therapy. I've tried medication, and I kind of outweighed it. I decided to try to do my own coping mechanisms to help with my anxiety. I did get a diagnosis. They diagnosed me with general anxiety because at that time, it was hitting me hard when I very first found out, because I could not identify what was going on with me. I just know, like you said, I felt like I was going to die, breathing hard, thinking things was going to happen to me, scared to go to sleep, those type of things. So like I said, it kind of hit me hard in the beginning.
Right.
So now I kind of know how to deal with those things. So, and I also was diagnosed with OCD, because I do think about things over and over and over again. And it could take days for that thing to get out of my system, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at with my mental health.
Right. Because in the beginning, like when you don't know what it is and you don't really know, you know, what's happening, that makes it harder for you to understand it, which makes it harder for you to deal with. So in the beginning, it is very overwhelming, which is why it is, you know, so important to go and get a diagnosis and get somebody that speaks the language to explain what's going on with you, so that you can properly manage it.
How did you feel when you got a diagnosis?
How did I feel? I want to say, for me, I think because I overthink so much and I'm like so in my head all the time, and I didn't know what was going on. So once I found out, like my therapist was like, hey, you know, this or whatever, and this, I think for me it was kind of a relief, because it was kind of like, okay, now I know what it is. Now I can work on it. Now I know what it is. Like, now I can fix it, even though it's not something you can necessarily fix all the time. But for me, it was just comforting to now have a label for it, so that I can start to work through it.
So having a label make you feel better about your situation.
Right. Because I feel like when before you can actually put a name to something or like give it like a reality, you kind of feel like, or you don't know if like you're tripping, or you don't know if like maybe it's all in my head. But when somebody affirms you're overthinking and they're like, hey, you're not tripping, like this is what you're dealing with, and the good thing about it is, you know, we can treat it, or it's something that you can work through. I feel like that is comforting because it's like, I'm not crazy, or it's like, I'm not tripping. Like,
so I felt embarrassed when I very first was told that I had anxiety. I was like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? Like, you know, and my doctors told me that it stemmed from, because I'm going to tell you, I kind of did everything. I drove all the way to Tampa to get like hooked up to a machine. And they said that mine stemmed from postpartum depression. So that's a whole nother situation on why I even had anxiety in the first place. So I wouldn't say anything to anybody. I mean, I did tell like my best friend, and she would go to the doctor's appointments with me, but I don't think she quite understood, you know, what it was. Because sometimes she would say little stuff and I'm just like, you know. And I kind of felt bad for me, because it was like, well, damn, this is like a slap in my face, like having something, and I can't be open with people because, like you said, people think you crazy. They don't know what you're really going through, how you really feel. So internally, I kind of felt like bad or whatever. But now I feel like once I seen like little people saying this and that on like social media and different stuff, I was like, well, damn, I might not be the only person that's going through this. So I started being open. And then I had so many people messaging me and all of that stuff like that. And that's when I began, you know, like doing my journal and all of that stuff like that, because it was like, I got to help somebody. If I could be a help, even though I'm going through it, because when I was doing my journal, I was going through it heavy. You know, I still have issues, but it's not as bad as it was. I can control it. I don't go to the hospital. Back then, I was going to the hospital at least every 30 days of the month. You know, once or twice a day, because I'm like, I can't breathe. Now, if I get a pain in my arm or pain on my head, I like just and stuff like that, I don't go running to the doctors and all of that stuff anymore. So I felt, you know, shame, guilt, all type of different stuff. I didn't really know how to recognize my emotion when it came to that. But now that I've actually sat back and actually thought about it, I feel way better now about it.
Okay. And I think to a lot of what you just said, like that's why this is so important, because we always feel like we're the only one. Like, and it's mostly because culturally how we're raised, like we're raised to deal with your own problems. If you have to reach out to anybody, reach out to your family that's in your house. And it's like, but the people in my house only know what I know. So it's like, can you really help me? So we feel like, okay, well, I'm the only one that's going through this and like nobody can relate. But it's like the more you actually allow people to hear your story, the more you allow a village to be built. Then it's more, you have more resources, you have more people that's willing to extend, you know, just help, whether it's a shoulder, whether it's, hey, I know somebody, like, it's just so much power in building that community and allowing people to be a village, or to allow yourself to be a part of a village.
Agree. I definitely agree to that. You gotta allow people to help come in that can help. Like I said, like you said, first off, the people in your house, they don't really know what's going on. And I ain't trying to like down talk anybody or anything like that. They don't really know.
Because it's like you have the parents and you have the kids. And the kids learn from the parents. So it's like, what we doing here for real?
Be for real, if anything. You know, like, come on, parents. Come on, family. But where do you think your trauma began?
Trauma began. I want to say my trauma began. I can't really say like what age, but I know just like probably like teenagers, because you know, as once boys become teenagers, they get a little smart out the mouth. They get rebellious.
Your hormones going.
Right. Once you get that testosterone start. But so I guess around that time, like me and my mom really start having our differences. So it was like everything was an argument in that, like that started to like weigh on my mental health. And then culturally, we're not great communicators. So parents, as we know, our generations before us, like our parents like yelled a lot. They cursed a lot. And for some kids, that's not a thing. Like they can just kind of like brush it off. But me, I don't want to say I'm like sensitive, but I think a part of me is like sensitive when I allow myself to be. So for me to be always being like yelled at and cursed at, and it's like, and also to that I can't defend myself because this is my mother.
It's my mother.
So carrying all of that around, I think really weighed on me, and it's like I would say that's where it started from. And then like I say, just because I lived with my mom like pretty much my whole childhood, so from like 13 to 18, that's what 5 years of just constantly feeling like I'm always being yelled at. I'm always getting in trouble for stuff that I didn't do. Always kind of defending myself. Like I had to live in survival mode in my house too. Like not only outside of my house, but in my house. I felt like I had to live in survival mode to where as I started to get older and, you know, as a boy, like my mom wasn't like, when you coming home? When you doing this? Like you need to be here by this time. Like, so once she kind of was like, okay, do your own thing, but don't get in trouble. I got up, got dressed, left the house. By the time I came home, everybody was asleep because I just didn't want to deal with it. Like it had just gotten to that point to where that's how I knew how to make it to the next day without just being mentally overwhelmed or just feeling like I gotta fight every day, man, even if it's not physical.
Right. Yeah. You know, my trauma began for sure when I was 15. My parents got a divorce and I feel like my life kind of spiraled. I could not put into words at that age on how I felt. Right. So I would act out in ways that was uncontrollable. I would run away. I had this thing at one point where I was like hitting myself, like punching, like literally, like I could remember a time where I like punched my own self in the face. I'm just that angry. I'm by myself, and I never really told anybody. But like my ex-husband and stuff, he knew about those things. I never really told people that I experienced that. And it was like I was literally losing my mind, and it was like I couldn't tell anybody, and I kind of like had to. I literally was battling with myself. I'm fighting with myself, like you said. You have to be in a survival mode, and it was like dang. And then I couldn't go to my parents or like my sister or whatever because it was just like, you know, they would bring up the situation. Well, not so much of my sister. My mom would bring up the situation and all of that type of stuff. And I wasn't a fan of it. I was tired of hearing it. Right. And as a teenager and stuff like that, you start becoming rebellious because it's like, listen, can you just stop? It's like things never stop. And so it made me be that child that wasn't, you know, the good child. Right. I start reacting to, I don't want to say like emotion, but technically reacting off of emotion. I had an attitude problem, getting into fights and all type of stuff like that. So I feel like then that's when my trauma began. Yeah, from like
those are your trauma responses.
Those were my trauma responses, literally, because it started, you know, and then it took a couple years, I guess, to catch back up with me again. I didn't have so much of, I think, anxiety. I think I had so much of anger. The anger was there. Anger was literally in my heart, my mind, my soul literally was of anger. And I did not know how to get that weight off of me.
So I have a question. So what did, like now hindsight, like what do you feel like it was about your parents divorcing that made you feel so angry?
That I feel like they didn't handle it the right way.
Okay.
You know, lack of communication.
Okay.
In the household. It was like I came home one day from school. He gone. She ain't never say nothing about it. Then crazy things start happening, different little situations or whatever. And it was just like, well, damn, like a slap in my face as a 15-year-old kid. Nobody communicating. Right. I just hear my mama talking, not so much of talking bad about, but talking bad about the situation that took place. And so it's like, well, damn. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like them not communicating with me as a child. And I feel like back then, adults did not think that they had to communicate with a child. Right. They didn't feel that it was important. You're a child, stay in a child's place. Mm-hmm. But not knowing that it's traumatizing to the child. Right. And I feel like now, you know, me as a parent, I feel like I owe my kids at least that communication point. Because even if I like yell at my child, sometimes I feel bad. And when we get in the car with each other, I'll be like, did I hurt your feelings? You know what I'm saying? Right. And then they'll tell me yes or no. I try not to do it in front of, like, because I'm in a relationship, I try not to do it in front of, you know, the person I'm with or whatever, just so that my child could know, like, or if somebody was over and I did it, I ask. You know what I'm saying? Because if we teach them like at a young age about that communication, then they probably won't feel that way when they get older, or me and somebody separate that then been in their life forever. They won't feel like nobody ever asked them anything, you know.
And I think too, parents don't, like I said, it was a different era, but parents are just, I'm gonna say parents don't think about, like, because they're like, oh, well, if I don't tell you, then you don't have to deal with it. Or if I don't tell you, then it's not a thing. But it's like, you have to think about, what are you telling them subconsciously? Right. So it's like, for instance, like if you're saying, if they didn't tell you anything, now some people would take that and be like, okay, well, I ain't got to tell my kids nothing. Or I would feel like, okay, well, I'm protected. If they felt like they was protecting you, it's okay, well,
I feel like they weren't protecting me, you know? They, like, I feel like you really weren't, you wasn't protecting me. I feel like they were protecting them. Right. And I feel like if anything, if you would have told me how you feel or what was what, I could have probably dealt with it in a different way. I wouldn't have had to run away from those problems. Right. If I had them to come to me and tell me, still to this day, you know, neither one of my parents have apologized to me. I mean, yeah, of course, I haven't went to them and actually explained this. They'll actually see this on here today. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, you know, I feel like they didn't protect me. They was protecting themselves. Yeah. Probably from the outside family, you know, other stuff, because everybody didn't know what was going on at the time either. You know?
And that was probably, like you said, like, for them probably, like, not talking about it, one, keeping people out of their business, and two, was just kind of like prolonging the reality of what was actually happening. Right. So, but communication, just in a general sense, is like a huge issue for us. Like, so much would be in a better like situation culturally if we just learn to communicate better. And I think too, to the point of, just kind of sidebar, but to the point of us being viewed as angry is because we don't know how to communicate. So it's like, all we see is, like, for instance, like me, like I would say, like, my mom would like blow up when she get like, I guess, frustrated or whatever. I was doing that, like, to where it started to affect like my friendships. So like what was going on at home started affecting my friendships, because like I was like so on edge to where it was like, people would say something and I'm like, what's up? Like, I ain't finna argue with you, because subconsciously I'm tired of arguing at home. So, but you know, at the time I didn't understand that, but I'm like, I'm not finna argue with you. So like, either we gonna do something or shut up. Right. Like, and it was just that, and to where I started, like I said, I started seeing that affect my friendships, and because I didn't know how to communicate, and it was like, it was crazy. But like I said, just people doing what's best for them, and also them probably feeling like, oh, they too young, they're not gonna remember, or just like you said, just at the end of the day, it was just being selfish. And then maybe, like I said, not being confident in your ability to communicate, so you chose not to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But I just also like, because even when I look at stuff now and they be like, oh, the kids, I'm like, bro, you're the adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have more resources, you have more knowledge. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have the responsibility to figure it out. Like, figure out how to communicate to your kids what you need to tell them without telling them too much.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Mm-hmm.
sure that your kids are okay. Like, make
Right.
sure that they're not wondering, like, what's going on. Like, obviously, they don't know what that does to a person's
Right.
mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people need to know. Like, even if, like I say, if it's not, you don't have to tell them everything,
Right.
but find a way to communicate to them, like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I can't, certain things that I can't tell you right now, which I think as a kid, you like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like, I can understand that, but give me the respect of at least acknowledging something that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so that I don't feel like, one, I'm by myself,
Right.
or that I'm tripping.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a lot. It's like, again, it was different times, but
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, I think it's still trickling down because they're not having these conversations. They're not
Mm-hmm.
doing the work on their mental health, and they're not educating themselves. So history is still repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of people, these situations are still reality.
Right.
So, I don't know.
It's definitely reality. When it comes to mental health, because even me, I may have said like, oh, you know, because my mom was a yellow cusser parent,
Mhm.
and I rarely put my hands on my kids,
Mhm.
but I'll yell. So I feel like you said, it kind of repeat itself. I don't like whooping them. I got plenty of whoopings, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I probably needed majority of those whoopings. I got whoopings before the divorce even happened. That was just me, or whatever. Things just got worse,
Right.
or whatever. So yeah, like I get I get where you're saying, like it repeats itself, especially if you don't have any knowledge or anything or any resources or anything to help.
Right.
You get to where you need to be. It will repeat itself, and even if you don't, how can I say? Even if you don't want it to repeat itself, sometimes that's just in you,
Right.
because it happened for so long.
Right.
You know, it's there. And you could find ways to better yourself, not doing it all the time. But sometimes, since it's already there, I feel like it will happen. Not every single time, but sometimes it will happen or whatever.
I think that just goes to also like people don't, or because we're not educated on how powerful our subconscious mind actually is, to where it's like we don't even know until like something happened and it triggers a thought. And it's like, dang, I thought I forgot about that, or dang, I didn't even remember that. But a lot of that stuff is still in your memory. You just suppressed it and pushed it to the back until something triggers it and it comes back up. So like you're saying, like stuff that happened to your childhood, that's just like muscle memory, if you would say. So it's like it's still in you. It's not in the forefront, so you don't think about it as much.
So do you feel like things get pushed back to the back of the brain that we, like, how can I say it, that we don't want to remember?
Correct.
And then when we have a smell or a word or somebody does something, that thing pops back up.
I feel like, it's actually a thing. Like our brain suppresses certain memories and things to protect us.
Right.
So yeah, like especially like trauma. So like if you have a traumatic experience or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to deal with it, or you're not dealing with it in a healthy way, like your brain will suppress it.
Right.
And then it takes something to happen to trigger that memory.
Correct.
Like you said, it could be something like a familiar smell and it takes you back. Like I've had things where it's like, I don't even know, it's like a sound or a word or whatever. And it's like takes me back to like my childhood. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Like, because it's something like I say, it's just this foreign thing that you haven't thought about probably since that moment. And it's like, yo, that's crazy. But yeah, definitely like when we don't deal with things, our brain suppresses it and it comes back later. So deal with it now.
Do you feel like in your time of need, your family and friends was there when you needed them, when it came to your mental health?
My mental health. I guess we'll do childhood and adulthood. Childhood, I would say no. Like the only person I honestly felt like was in my corner 1,000% was my grandma.
Okay.
Other
Kudos
than
to
that,
grandma.
like, right. I felt like my mom was doing her own thing. My dad was doing his own thing. And then my siblings, like my sister is like 8 years older than me. So she was just in a different age range. And then my brother, he was 2 years older than me, but we had similar friends, but he didn't want me hanging out with his friends. So it was kind of like we was together, but we was separated. And that kind of like, just like I said, just natural sibling stuff. Like that kind of created a divide for a long time. So for the most part, honestly, bro, I felt alone. Like, you know, I say I grew up in the house, like, until maybe I think my sister moved out. I was probably like 10, 11, maybe. She ended up moving out. And then other than that, it was me, my mom, my brother, like literally until adulthood. But aside from like the relationships I built outside of the house, like my friends, I felt like I was by myself. So I did lean more on my friends, which is why like once I start realizing like, hey, I'm like messing up these friendships because of what's going on at home, I had to kind of check myself. So like, and that plays a big part of who I am now, especially as a friend. But back then, I think as a kid, I think my friends were like definitely there for me. Like I had some solid friends. Adulthood now, I always say, because people always ask me like, oh, do you have, you know, good relationships with your family? And I always say I have healthy relationships with my family. Which means if we only got to talk once every 6 months, we only talk once every 6 months. If that worked for us, that worked for us. I ain't forcing no relationships. Like whatever is going to keep us like in a good space, I'm all for it. Because I've just learned to accept things for what they are and not what I want them to be or what I thought they should have been because of the relationship.
Correct.
So, as far as now, like my friends, I feel like my friends are there for me, and, you know, as much as, you know, they can be, because I also, like, I understand now, especially once I start going through my stuff, I start realizing that, like, we all got our own stuff going on, so, you know, anything that anybody does for me, I appreciate it, and I hope it's vice versa, like, I can't always be there, because I still got to make sure I'm okay.
Correct.
And I expect y'all to do the same, so it's like, you know, if there is an instance where somebody can't do something, I'm like, okay, cool, let me figure it out.
Right.
But I think, too, I actually seen something earlier on TikTok, and it was like, are you like that cool, calm person, or were you just neglected as a child and you learned to fend for yourself and just kind of be independent in that way because you didn't have anybody? And I was like, fuck. I was like, oh, can it be both?
Can I be that both type of person? Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's so just now, just looking back, it's like it's crazy, like how much like that period of your childhood can just transpire so much other things, and then once you become an adult and you become more aware of that, you have to kind of backtrack and like, okay, now I got to deal with all this stuff, and then build back up to where I'm at now.
Right. So I don't feel like I had support in my mental health as a teenager at all. Only because I never really told people. Right. So I can't blame them, but I feel like signs. You should recognize signs as an adult in the things that I'm doing or going through should have bothered you as an adult.
Right.
I feel like nobody read the signs. It's red flag here, red flag there. I didn't realize the red flags until I got of age.
Right.
That these were red flags. Because if my child is running away or doing XYZ, I should recognize what's going on. I shouldn't just sit back and be like, oh, she grown. She doing this. They're just being rebellious. You know what I'm saying? That's what type of stuff that was going on. I feel like nobody was there. As an adult, I feel like it's kind of better because I let people know. I don't talk to people like that. You could text or call me. You might take a day or two. I might not answer. And it's not that I'm not answering because I don't want to.
Right.
Sometimes I just be needing space. A lot of people crowd me because of who I am.
Right.
And I still have to let them know, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to talk. You probably understand if I don't answer my phone for a day or two. You probably could text me and be like, hey, what up? Like, hey, XYZ. Hey, I'm trying to do XYZ. You know what I'm saying? People that's not close to me, they get offended. They get upset if I don't answer for them or they don't hear from me. Anything to kind of protect my peace. I don't try to put my burials on other people. I don't want other people to put too much on me. Now, if you close to me and you be like, hey, this is going on, I'm okay with it. But some people kind of take advantage and they kind of drain you with all of this stuff. I don't mind anybody calling me saying, I'm going through this. But you calling me every other day and you got a problem. Right. You may need to go see a therapist. You may need to get on some medication.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And even when you do talk to people, you know, they be like, what's that? Medicine, what's that?
Right.
Therapist, what's that? You know, so it's like, you might have to do some of the things that I've done.
Right.
So I have the peace that I want to have at this age. And I let people know what I want them to know at this age.
Right.
I
want to step back real quick because when you said, as a parent, you know, it's certain things that you need to be paying attention to in your kids. Like, and I'm sure a lot of it is just like, you know, they got their own, like they got to work, they got, if they're in a relationship or marriage or whatever. So they do have a lot going on, but you still have a responsibility to your child.
Correct.
To notice them just in general. Like you need to know like what's going on with them. Like you need to be able to know the difference if they've been happy all week or they're just normally a happy child, but all of a sudden they going through this dark phase. Like what's wrong? Like something is off. And when I was working at a facility here, or a shelter, I'm sorry. I was working at a shelter here. And, you know, people come, they drop their kids off, and they like, here, they bad. I'll be back in a week.
Oh, I didn't work one of those type of places.
And I'm like, you don't want to know why? Like, did you ask them? No, they just always got attitude. And I'm like, you think they just, if they found the attitude out of thin air, like, it's something happened. Like, it's something mentally going on with them that you should be concerned about. And I think a lot of parents, because they have their own stuff going on, they neglect their kids,
right,
or their kids' feelings, or just in general, man. So if anything, just pay attention is what I would say.
Yeah, they have to, and a lot of people still do have that phase of not letting their kids in. Hey, mommy gotta work extra hours because we're behind on bills. You know, that child may miss you. They don't know how to express and say, I miss you, mom. Right. If they may be afraid to even say it because you may be that yellow parent. You may be that parent that, you know, beat them or slap them if they say something out of the way because you're frustrated.
And also, too, those, I would say, type of parents are usually not affectionate. So, like you said, I may not, for whatever reason, feel comfortable telling you, like, hey, I missed you today. Or, like, I just want to tell you I love you. Or, hey, I just want to hear you tell me that you love me. Like, so people as parents need to be more intentional about opening that line of communication as well. Because as a child, you don't really have a lot of, I don't want to say just life experience in general. So you don't really know what the parameters are for, like, your feelings. So it's like, hey, I need attention, or hey, I want to hear you say you love me more, or hey, I need a hug. So, like, if you don't initiate that as a child, they don't know how to do that without feeling like maybe they're overstepping or they're doing too much or they don't want to get in trouble. So it's just, that's what I said. Just being a parent is a lot, bro. Even though I ain't got no kids, like, I know being a parent is a lot. And I don't want to go too into details of this, but I do think that because I don't even know what they would do to begin to work through this. Probably therapy. But I feel like because we, I'm gonna say as a culture, because as a culture too, this is what I'm concerned about. So I'm gonna say as a culture, like how we were talking about, like being more proactive instead of reactive when it comes to reproduction. I think people, men and women, have kids that they didn't necessarily want, and they don't know how to deal with them. Right. And that manifests in how they treat them as well. Right. And clearly that's not fair to the child. Right. So if that is a situation that you're in, please figure it out. Do whatever is best for the child. Right. Don't be selfish. Don't say, "Oh, I don't want nobody else raising my child that you don't want to raise," or I don't want people talking about me. Or because I remember, like I said, my grandma was like, that was my end all be all, and like my grandma wanted me. She was like I'll raise him. Like it's not a big deal. Like because I was the only grandchild. But my mom was like, "Ain't nobody else raising my child," and I'm like, "Bro, that's selfish." Like. For lack of better words, like you don't fuck with me like that. Right. So it's like, why not let me go stay with my grandma? And I remember, I want to say it was like, it had to be like 10th grade. Matter of fact, it was 10th grade. And what was crazy about it was around the time that Pork Chop had got killed. And just like mentally, bro, like I was checked out. Like mentally, I was done. So that on top of the day-to-day stuff that me and my mom was going through, I was like, bro, like, I'm leaving. Like, I ain't gonna run away because I just wouldn't even know where I would go. But
I would have went to grandma's house.
She's lived in Aquawaha. We live by Vanguard.
Somebody would have got me there. Somebody would have got me there. Take me to my grandma's house.
Right. So I called my grandma. I was like, "Hey, listen, like, because my grandma already knew like the relationship my mama had. So I was like, "Hey, can you come get me Friday? Like, I just can't do it anymore." And she was like, "Yeah, I come get you." Like, so I guess, so I told my brother, I was like, "Hey, like, I'm leaving. Like, you know. This doesn't mean like I don't love you or anything, but I can't deal with her." Because he knew. And so my brother went and like kind of like blew up at my mom, like, "Leave him alone. Like, why you messing with him? Like, he want to move out. Like, da, da, da." And so she called my grandma and was like, "Oh, you ain't coming to get him. This is my child. Like, da, da, da. He ain't going nowhere." And like that just like broke me, bro. Like, because I'm not a crier, but like that made me cry because I'm like, the only thing that I know to do to help myself is to remove myself from this situation. And you're telling me I can't do that. Right. And I know you don't have good reason. Right. So like, I was just like done. Like, I just remember in that moment, bro, like I just felt so hopeless because I'm like, that was like my only out because what it was she would always kind of use that as like a punishment. Like, "Oh, you keep on, I'm gonna make you stay with your grandma," because she knew I didn't want to stay in the country. Right. But I'm like, at the end of the day, bro, like I love my grandma. Like I know I'll be good. Like I have my own room, like everything. Like I'll just be good at my grandma's house. So when it got to that point, and then for you to snatch that away from me was just like devastating to me at that time.
And with you saying that, raising a child and being a parent is two different things. Right. You can raise me, you know, but just being my parent is not going to show me anything. Right. You're not doing anything. You might not give me a hug. You may not read me a book. You just being my parent because you have that title. Raise me, show me things, teach me things, love me, care for me. And a lot of people just don't get it, you know? I just feel like a lot of parents don't understand it. Yeah. You could say, "Oh, I got a kid," but are you doing anything for those kids? Your kid come around you, they way XYZ, you know? I'm not saying don't get help from family and all of that stuff like that because my kids go to my grandma's house all the time. Because I be needing a break. I made a whole post about it. I ain't here. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Whenever she call, they going. If she call me every weekend, they going. Right. That's it. End of story. Because I may need, I might say, I don't want them to go to my grandma's house. You love going to your grandma's house. My daughter love going to my grandma's house. And if I use that, I wouldn't even use that as a punishment for my child. You're going to stand in the corner or do something. I'm not going to say you can't go to your grandma's house because like you said, if you love your grandma that much, that's going to break a kid. Right. I used to go to my grandma's house literally every weekend. Yeah. my grandpa or my grandma would literally be to the house to pick me up, or they would meet my mama at the it used to be cash and carry where Winn-Dixie was on 441. You know what 441 is? And 326.
Okay, yeah.
Straight down.
Yeah.
It used to be called cash and carry. Yep. They would meet there with me every Friday. Me and my sister. My cousins, everybody going to grandma's house on the weekend. They ain't never have to have babysitters. The new grandmas, they don't do all that. They ain't babysitting no children for no whole weekend and doing stuff like that. Right. Now, I got an auntie that will. That's younger. That'll get them every weekend and stuff like that. But a lot of parents and all of that stuff like that. I mean, granted or not, my mom will get my kids if she don't have to work. But she still has bills and stuff, so I can't expect that. Right. But it's grandmas that don't be doing nothing. They won't even get their grandkids. They won't.
Hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out. Like, you know, like, what did you miss? Right. And that's what I say. If my parents be like, oh, I missed XYZ or something, and they just don't want to watch my kids, that'll be totally insane to me, because I swear to you, and this ain't even exaggerating, if, you know, Tasha, them, those are my cousins. We all went to my grandma's house. Well, it was like I don't want to say they wasn't married. I ain't gonna say it because don't get on me about this. But you know, she was their mom was in a relationship with my cousin, and all of us, like I said, I don't separate them. We was to my grandma's house every weekend. Our parents was able to get breaks and do the things that they wanted to do. It's just, I feel like we don't have our community of us does not do that anymore. We don't have so caring parents. If that makes sense. They're not caring. They're not, they may love us. They don't care. Right. Because it's like, well, I raised you. Well, you had me. You're just, you know what I'm saying? You barely raised me because I was with my grandma. Right. You know what I'm saying? You had to get me up, feed me. I mean, what? Get me up, get me ready for school, feed me, come back. Weekends, I'm going to my grandma's house. You know what I'm saying? You had help. I feel like a lot of that, too, is why parents, our age, it trickles down because we're so frustrated. We're so aggravated. We need help. And I see a lot of people like, your family very supportive. My family would never do that. I can't just drop my kid off over here. You know? I shouldn't have to call two of my friends to say, can you watch the kid? Yeah. I shouldn't have to worry about a baby daddy not being a baby daddy. Because what? Grandma gonna get him. Grandma got mama back. Right. You know what I'm saying? We just don't have that type of stuff either. That kind of bothers me as well.
And I don't even know, like, or what would you say, like, that shift happened? Because I know a lot of them will be like, oh, well, kids are they're having kids younger now. But
back then, girls had kids young as well. Right. So it's literally the same thing. Whether you had them younger or not. My grandma and my mama was pregnant at the same time. My mama got pregnant, I think, at like 18. But my grandma was pregnant too. My sister and my uncle is like, I'll probably say, 9 months apart. You know what I'm saying? 8 months apart. I'm not going to say, maybe my math ain't mathing right now. Right. But I say about 7 months or whatever. But like I said, at some point they was pregnant at the same time or whatever. Because they're literally, my uncle birthday in December, my sister birthday in April. So, yeah. Right. Like, they was pregnant at the same time.
I don't know.
So, I don't know. I feel, and maybe it's just a race thing, you know. But I feel like back then they gave that opportunity to you to still have breaks. These grandmas now don't give their children breaks. I don't care if you a 50-year-old grandma. That's what you're supposed to be doing. My grandma was 50 when she was getting me. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So what make it young? Like, I feel like what would make that break? When did it start? I don't understand when did it start that you couldn't watch. If you just sitting home rubbing your feet together while your grandkids can't be there popping you across the head with a cup. I'm just saying. Like, you ain't doing nothing. And the crazy thing is, when I did go to my grandma's house, we didn't do nothing spontaneous. If we wasn't going to Tampa, but we was going to Tampa to visit a family member. Yeah. Not that I was going to a theme park or something. Right. When I went to my grandma's house, we played outside all day. From the time we woke up to the time we my grandma cooked the good breakfast. I wasn't hungry again until the nighttime. Right. These grandmas don't even cook. Right. You get what I'm saying?
No, man.
I feel like that's just a choice thing.
Yeah.
Because the grandmas, they're technically the same age that our grandmas was. It's a choice. It's definitely a choice. Yeah. It has to be something that's something in their brain. That's a choice. Our parents went through some traumatic stuff that they haven't got together. Because it's no way. They have trauma that has not been released.
Yeah, I definitely would say that, yeah.
Because it's no way that I don't even feel like that's a repeating, because majority of us at our age, because I'm about to be 30, had grandma.
Yeah.
If we did a poll right now, I guarantee you the people that's our age, grandma was involved.
Yeah. Definitely.
So it had to be a choice. Those grandmas gave breaks. Those grandmas helped.
Yeah, my grandma did so much, man.
You could be going through, your mama could probably have some mental health or have some stuff going on at home. She didn't even really have to open up because she was able to get space.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And that, like, I don't think, well, like you said, it's a choice. Maybe they don't care, but even though, you know, they'd be like, oh, well, you know, that was your choice. You had kids. Yeah. But, like, to have, which I don't know if somebody might say it sound messed up or whatever, but to have, you know, if you have multiple kids, to just have those kids, it's just you and those kids for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, bro. That's a lot.
That's like, a lot.
Kids are very needy. Kids don't understand space. Kids don't understand you being overstimulated, especially if you're dealing with, you know, something mental health related. Like, kids don't understand that. So, yes, give parents a break. Like, come on, man. Like, that's not rocket science. Yeah. Y'all wanted breaks. Why y'all can't
Exactly. Why y'all can't get breaks? I guarantee you, if we did a poll right now, if we had live calls right now, people would say that their grandparents was there. These new generation of grandparents, they want to be as young as us. No, boo.
I was about
Sit
to say,
down.
are they getting BBLs too?
Right. What you doing? It's our time, baby.
Right, where you going?
Where's you going? Yeah, I don't know. That's something that really bothers me as well. I can't say it bothers me because it's the people around me. My family does well with my kids. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful.
And you know, while we're on this, I was just like, especially now since I've become like more aware of my mental health, like, and like how my childhood trauma transfers to adulthood. I was wondering, like, cause like I'd be on the fence about, you know, people ask me, "Oh, do you want kids?" Like, I feel like you'll be a great dad, and I don't think I'm gonna have kids. And it's like, and it's not even the fact that I don't feel like I would be a good father, because I know I'd be a good father, but it's just like, I know how important community is, and I don't feel like I have a community, and I wouldn't want to impose that on a child.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I would be there. Yeah, my immediate friends would be there. But outside of that, like, you're going to still, like, expect grandma to be grandma. You're going to expect granddad to be granddad. And they're not going to give that to you. And I'm going to feel responsible because, you know, they're my parents. But, you know, even though they make their own decisions, but still, like, ideally, it's just me. Maybe it's the perfectionist in me. Like, I would want to give my child the ideal situation, considering I literally would be controlled over if I want to have a kid or not. So it's like, I'm going to try to make the best, you know, decision. Maybe that's just not. Maybe once I get older, I'd be like, fuck them people.
Leave them where it's at. Don't have no children. Don't have no children.
But, and then also, too, like, when I think about, like, also, too, like, I ain't going to say that because obviously I could wait till I'm like, married and stuff. But just the idea of, like, raising a child by myself, all things considered, like, gives me so much anxiety. Because I know how much responsibility it is. And I'm like, bro, I'm still out here figuring me out. Like, so to
it's true, because nowadays dads are becoming moms. Our moms aren't being moms. And that's just serious. I done seen a lot of different situations, you know, with people. And so that is scary to think about. But I tell people, don't have no kids. I love my kids with all my heart, baby. But if I knew what I knew back then, I would have probably said, not right now.
Right.
It's not my time. But I was one of those people. It's so crazy because I was looking at my transcript the other day from high school, and I said, well, damn, you could have went to any college you wanted. You wanted to sit around here and be get married and do this and have children and all of this stuff like that. And it's just, no, like I feel I love my children. Now, don't get me wrong. They're my heart. Like they're my kids.
Right.
But if I would have known, I could have waited.
Right,
I could have waited till I was 35, 40. I could have traveled and I still do that type of stuff.
Right.
But I wouldn't have had those responsibilities.
Right.
I wouldn't have to worry about getting up extra early so I can get my kids ready so then I could start work. I wouldn't have to worry about if I needed a break and stuff like that.
I think too, the way that kind of maybe goes hand in hand with like how we're talking about how we're being raised, because when you're in a household where you're basically told to sit down and be quiet and don't ask for nothing until you're 18, it's like, okay, well, I'm just ready to turn 18 so I can be grown, I can get my own place, I can live my life on my terms, to where it's like you be in such a rush maybe to like prove a point or to just kind of be free. And then, with in your own place, you get a significant other, y'all have unprotected sex, boom, baby. So now it's like, now I have to reevaluate everything that I thought I was going to do. And you have to go immediately into parent mode when you haven't even figured out who you are as a person.
Okay. I agree, because I feel like even with me, I agree with what you're saying, because even with me as a person, I had, not saying that I was trying to prove a point, but I was like, I want to be better than my parents. I want to give a kid things that I didn't have, and that was not the best decision for me, And I feel like a lot of us do that. A lot of us, you can have sex for 10 minutes and you like, well, damn, I did not want no kid. And nowadays, everybody is just like, well, back then it wasn't so popular or whatever. When you have a baby or whatever, abortion and stuff wasn't talked about. But now it's like, it's normal for people to do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, it's, I feel like a lot of us females, we get babies and stuff off of emotion. We don't get babies because we're ready. We get babies off of emotion. It's no way, not trying to down talk me or any other woman. It's no way we should be around here having kids. We don't even have a house yet to say that we own it. Not saying that you can't, because some of us may never own anything. I'm just saying, we may never own anything.
I get what you're saying.
But I'm saying you might just be renting for the rest of your life.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, we shouldn't be having kids and stuff. And we don't have anything. Technically.
Right. Because then it's like, that's what I be trying to explain to some people. And it's just like, they be like, oh, we have his kid. And I'm like, okay, well, before y'all had the kid, like, what did you know about him? And they be like, well, we hung out, or just a situation where he didn't tell me he, whatever, or he took the condom off, and I'm just like,
it'd be a good time.
Right.
For the moment. You don't really be wanting no kid. And we don't even know how to tell people we don't want a kid.
Right.
And then you feel bad about abortions and stuff like that because of the society.
Right. So, and then also too, for women, like what that does to your body. So it's like, damn, I really got a tough decision to make because of 10 minutes of
a good time.
Right, of bliss. So that's why I say it's a lot.
Because I don't know what you're doing past 15 minutes.
So it's like, dang, man. That's why I said and that's why I be saying, like, people be like, oh, well, it's not that simple. And I totally get that. But what I'm saying is, for that to be such a permanent decision, I don't care, bro. I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna have to figure something out. All these toys and mechanics they got now. I'm gonna have to figure something out because that is something that's so permanent, bro. And it's like, and people are doing it to have an attachment. And I feel like, yes, the men do it a lot because that whole, like, people be like, oh, he took the condom off. He ain't pull out, okay, bread and motherfucking roses.
Exactly. Because what are you doing? Exactly. People don't, man, no. That's why I say, listen, I'm not against you doing whatever you want to do to your body. I'm not going to tell nobody that because that shit is mentally on you. Yeah. Some people have like 7 and 8 kids. And for 10 minutes, they had, like you said, a bliss. Ain't no way I'm bringing one more in this house. Can't do it. I can't afford it. I can't do it. Yeah, everybody say, oh, you laid on your back. You knew what you was doing. But, you know what I'm saying? Right.
And then it's like, what's so crazy is like how we were talking about, like, you already have, like, your, not generational, your childhood stuff, trauma, whatever. And then you having this baby with somebody that you don't know. You don't know if they're going to be a good father. You don't know if they're going to stick around. You just don't know. So while you're pregnant, you're already emotional going through all of that stuff. And then when postpartum hit.
And it hit you like a dump truck, then ran you over.
And it's just like, it's my opinion. Granted, like I said, kids are a blessing. I love kids.
That's what I said. I do.
But if I was in that moment and I was weighing pros and cons, baby, I'm not doing it.
Bread and roses. I will not. And that's why I tell people, don't ask me. And people be thinking I'm being mean when I tell them, don't ask me. Yeah. I'm dead serious. Don't ask me about having no kids. I don't want no more kids. Yeah. If I have a kid, that must be God put that baby there in my stomach. I go get my birth control faithfully because I know I can't handle that mentally. My kids get on my nerves. No. It's a big no. Don't ask me about no children. Don't do that. Because you don't know where I stand. I'm not even married to the person that I'm with. And people was like, when y'all having a baby? No.
Right.
I'm not even married to him. Why you want me to have a baby with him? You have a baby with him if it's that serious. That's how I be feeling.
Have a baby so bad.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I be wanting to say because you know my mouth. I'm reckless. I'm like, well, I really do. I'm like, don't ask me that. And it's just hard. I don't even be liking when people are asking my, family or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't ask me that. I'm not even married to this man and y'all around here asking me.
And that's crazy because it's like, and I don't even know if there's like a answer to that, but it's like also too, like, where does that come from? Because it's like, y'all rushing people to get married that's not ready to be married. Y'all rushing people to have babies that don't need babies. So it's like, why are we doing that? Like,
I heard somebody complaining about somebody taking a plan B. Why is that your business?
Right.
Let her take a plan B. She ain't killing it. She took it in that contraceptive mode. Right. Why she can't take a plan B? Why is that your business?
That's what it's there for.
Yeah, like that's what I was like. Why is that bothering you that somebody taking a plan B? And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just so many different. It's like people want people to be like them.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
I don't want to sound rude, but y'all be wanting people to be like you.
I was just going to say that.
If I can't afford another baby, I'm not having it.
Running around here with a chicken with their head cut off, talking about, oh, you're not going to have it?
You have it then. You want to adopt it? Meet me at the courthouse. I bet you won't be there. No. I ain't playing.
And I think that's another thing too. Like I said, how we were talking about how we're so disconnected as like a culture and as like a village. Why are we telling people to have these babies that we're not going to help with?
Exactly.
that don't make sense. Come on now. You ain't gonna be there now. They ain't probably ain't gonna buy nothing now. Diaper ain't gonna want to babysit. If it's not benefiting you, you're not doing nothing for this child. So why are you encouraging people to have kids?
Weirdo activity. It's what it is. Don't do that. No. Especially with mental health nowadays. No. Like I told you earlier, we are in a crisis with mental health. Literally. Whether it's postpartum, whether it's generalized anxiety, whether it's depression, we are in a crisis. And it's something that has to be fixed. Yeah. A therapist might not be able to fix it. Medication may not be able to fix it. We have so many people with suicidal thoughts and suicidal things that's going on with they're actually interacting to like actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, no, bringing kids on top of all of this stuff like that, it's a big no. It's a hell no.
And I think
right now,
to like kind of in the same realm of what we're talking about. And the crazy thing is, like, I know because of it's such a large part of the culture, for whatever reason, it's going to be hard to kind of dismantle. But this whole over sexualization is a problem because that's what people are doing. People are, they're depressed. They're going through what they're going through, and they run to sex. And now you have a baby on top of everything that you were already going through.
You're right.
An attachment to a person that you don't know after, on top of what you were already going through. So it's like y'all compounding problems. No, baby, start at the root.
At the root.
And work your way back up, because you're not going to get anywhere doing that. Like, what they say, the instant gratification is killing America.
Yep.
Because we want it now. We want to feel good right now. But
we don't think about
happiness takes time. Real peace takes time. You're not going to get it overnight.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem. People don't want to do the work. Like, people, I'm sure it happens to you too. Like, people will be like, oh, well, this is what I'm going through, and this is where I want to be. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to take like 6 months. And like, oh, no, 6 months. And I'm like, what did you like?
How you want it to happen overnight?
Like, come on now.
I be telling people, you are not a magician. You need to get right. You are not a magician. If you think you're a magician, your life gonna be tough for the rest of your days. Get yourself together.
And that's like, even with like, with the way they're saying, like, social media is just so crazy. Like, everybody chasing that viral moment. And then once you get that viral moment, it die out so fast because you didn't even know what to do with it. You didn't have nothing prepared. You didn't have no content to post after that. You went viral, and in 24 hours it was gone, because when they came to whatever you lured them there for, it was nothing there for them.
Even down to me. When I went viral, the whole Ocala was support me when it came down to it. And I don't know if I wasn't grateful enough, because God, I'm still mad. I ain't even finna sit here and lie to you.
Wait. What happened?
Remember when I went
remember
viral?
You went viral, yeah.
And somebody reported my post like 15 times?
Oh, yeah.
It's just not me.
That's crazy, though.
You know what I'm saying? So, literally, I think it was like 500 shares and all this other stuff. And
I remember that.
And it snatched. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't snatched by just anybody. Somebody did it. We don't know who did it.
Right.
Somebody did it, for sure.
And that's crazy.
And I'm pretty sure it was one person that sat there
and did it 15 times.
15 times. It literally actually, I think it was like 17 times, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have a screenshot because I sent it to somebody.
And that's and
they did 2 of my posts like that. That mentally messed me up, because it was like, are you serious right now?
Really trying to hold me back? Like, for what, bro? Like,
that's what I said.
And it's crazy because, what is it? Like, that's why, and I hate that, especially here, because it's so small, to where it's like everybody know everybody see everything, to where it's like, oh, well, if I want to do something, but I'm not confident in doing it, but you doing it and it's working for you, now I'm jealous. So it's like, I don't want to see you doing good. And it's just like, same thing, people behind fake pages. It's like, I want to do it, but I don't want nobody to know I did it, or I want to be petty or
the crazy
malicious.
thing is though, people never tell me that they don't like me. They never said they friend might not. I could probably name, it's probably like only 2 or 3 people that we just don't get along. Or I just don't fuck with them. Or I never fuck with them. I don't give a fuck about them. Let's just be clear. Just in case they watching. I'm so dumb. No, I'm not even playing. I'm dead serious. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and I don't even associate myself with those people. I don't have friends that associate those people. So that's why I said there had to be somebody that has been watching me. Somebody that actually know me. People was literally messaging me saying, probably half of Ocala, who do you got a problem with? I could not think of one person that would be on my Facebook page that I had a problem with. That's why I say it mentally messed me up. Because if you really don't like me, why are you here?
Right. That is
You're
crazy.
literally watching me on social media. the thing that I worked super hard for got took from me because of your jealous ways, I still feel some type of way. If I could just get a sign to tell me who it was. You know what I'm saying? The fact that I ain't nobody ever come back to me and say, this person said they did, that bothers me. Because most people, they'll tell what they did.
Right.
And by now, I would have known who did it.
That's the thing, too, man. People don't, it's I guess an inner thing. Like, they don't want people to know that they're malicious in that way because people are going to look at you differently because you are a bad person. Like, but they don't want people to look at them as a bad person. So they want to, like I said, hide behind these fake pages and stuff. But that's them for whatever reason, whatever the mental
issues
stuff
they have.
They're not dealing with it. And that's why it's so important to deal with your mental health because even though you may not feel like it's a problem, or the people around you will probably just hiding it from them. But even if you do tell certain people, they may just try to be like, oh, it's not that thing, or they'll try to coddle you and be like, oh, they deserved it, or whatever the case may be. But that's not okay. That's not healthy.
Right.
As an adult, you're responsible for your mental health, and for you to be miserable and unhappy all the time, like that's not healthy and that's not okay. Like, go get that looked at. Like, go talk to somebody. I tell people all the time, like, go talk to somebody. Like, even if you don't want to talk to, like, you know, your friends or your family, like, there are people who are literally sitting at a desk waiting on you to walk in to talk to you and make you feel better or help you feel better. And like, even the other day when I made the post about mental health, it was like 10 people that like inboxed me, and I sent all of them information because it's, you know, I tell people too, like, don't look at it as like, oh, I'm going, they're going to tell me what's wrong with me. Like, no, like, even if you're completely happy, like, there's still things that you can just learn about yourself. It's about being more self-aware. It's not about fixing what's wrong with you or finding out what's wrong with you. Like, no, it's just, what do I say? What do you call it? Oh, like self-maintenance or something along those lines. But like, it's necessary. I feel like for everybody.
It can be a self-care thing, you know?
A form of self-care,
Going to a therapist, I feel like,
It's like, because even my therapist, like, I've done like, because like I said, I was just determined. So I kind of did like so much work on my own to where now, like, we been there and he was like, okay, well, what do you want to talk about? And I'd be like, I mean, nothing really going on. You know, I just...
Don't give me the floor. Ask me something.
So, and like, he'd be like, yeah, like you've done, like, I can tell that you've done, like, well, like, you compartmentalize well and stuff like that. And I'm like, because, like, I didn't have it. Like, I wasn't working at the time, so I didn't have insurance, so I couldn't go to therapy. So it was like, I had to figure something out. Like, 'cause I just knew where I was not where I wanted to be. And I wanted to feel better. So I did my own research, not saying that anybody should rely on self-diagnosis and things like that.
Do not self-diagnose. And do not get on Google. Because that's what was wrong with me. Don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it.
But, you know, I just personally have a knack. Like, I like psychology, so I have like a knack for things like that. But, you know, if you don't, there's nothing wrong with going to see a therapist. I tell everybody, even people who come to me for coaching, like, I tell them coaching and therapy are different things. Like, even though you come to me for coaching, you should still go to therapy. I actually seen, I was on a live yesterday on Instagram, and a guy said, coaching is for moving forward. Therapy is for fixing what's behind you. And I thought that was very powerful.
That was very, very powerful. I like it. I have to say, I like that. Seriously. So I think I need to do a little bit. I haven't did coaching yet, but I think soon I'll be ready for that. Because I feel like I'm almost to that stage of releasing and letting go. Because like I said, this is my first time like actually talking about it. And I got to talk with you. So it's like, you know, you are a life coach. So it feels really good to be able to do that or whatever. So yeah.